It started like any other breezy morning on The View. Coffee cups clinked, makeup was flawless, and hot takes were locked and loaded. But then, bam! Reality TV turned into political warfare. The audience barely had time to get comfy before Whoopi Goldberg detonated a truth bomb so explosive it rattled breakfast tables across America. One comment. That's all it took. A single, razor-sharp sentence that flipped the set into DEFCON 1. The topic? The DOJ's cryptic shrug over the Epstein client list. Tension? Already thick. Suspicion? Sky high. Even Laura Ingraham had raised an eyebrow. But when it was Whoopi's turn, she didn't just raise eyebrows, she torched the script. She stared straight into the camera, calm, collected, deadly. If y'all think this man was ever gonna expose the truth about Epstein, you're more naive than I thought. Trump doesn't want that list out. Some of his people might be on it. Silence. You could have heard a heart stop. A pin drop. Maybe even a producer hit the floor. Co-hosts blinked. Some gasped. Others just nodded like it was the sermon they'd been waiting for. But Whoopi wasn't done. There's no accountability anymore. People worship politicians like gods, and then act shocked when the truth never comes. Sorry if you don't like it. Facts. Are. Facts. Boom. Cue commercial. But off camera? Mayhem. Pandemonium. Producers scrambling like the set was on fire. Control room lit up like mission control mid-crisis. Executives flooded in, wide-eyed, whispering the 4 words no one ever wants to hear. She went off script. Earpieces crackled with panic. Social media? Instant inferno. Hashtag Epstein Files and hashtag Whoopi vs. Trump were trending before the theme music could fade. Some were furious. Others called it courage. But one thing was clear, morning TV would never be the same again. Some called it bold. Others said she'd napalm journalistic decorum with a flamethrower. And the backlash? Immediate and merciless. Conservative networks pounced like wolves on raw meat, slapping her words with labels like reckless, divisive, even un-American. Demands for Whoopi Goldberg's firing came crashing in faster than Uber Eats orders in a thunderstorm. ABC? Dead silent. No apology. No press release. Just a thick, uneasy quiet, the kind that makes everyone lean in, knowing the real explosion is still coming. The View's audience split like a cracked mirror. On one side, outrage. On the other, roaring support. And let's not forget, this wasn't Whoopi's first walk through fire. Back in 2022, she'd already weathered a 2-week suspension after controversial Holocaust comments. So now, the question wasn't if ABC would act, it was when. Behind the scenes, things turned from chaotic to chilling. This wasn't just network damage control anymore, this was political. Sources whispered that calls from political operatives were slamming into ABC's switchboards, asking whether Whoopi's statement could be challenged legally. Executives huddled with lawyers, advertisers started pulling sponsorships like lifeboats off a sinking ship. And Whoopi? Silent. Watching. Waiting. Until Monday. The studio that morning buzzed like it had been struck by lightning. Everyone braced for an apology. Instead, she looked dead into the lens, fire in her eyes, and said, "I said what I said. If telling the truth makes people uncomfortable, that says more about them than me." Boom. Applause detonated like a riot in real time. Whoopi wasn't backing down, not a step, not a syllable. But this wasn't about Epstein anymore. Or Trump. No, the ground was shifting. This was about power, who holds it, who protects it, and what happens when someone dares to speak past the velvet ropes of media diplomacy. And in that moment, Whoopi didn't just poke the bear. She kicked down the cage. Then, before the aftershocks could even settle, the second wave hit. Late that same day, a leaked internal ABC memo spilled onto the internet like kerosene on a fire. Allegedly penned by a senior executive, it claimed Whoopi had been placed on a company watch list, targeted for her increasingly unscripted, volatile commentary. This wasn't just a quiet HR wrist slap. This was the network ringing the alarm bell behind locked doors. The memo painted a picture of ABC not as a media giant, but as a corporation under siege, caught in a blender of public outrage, political interference, and panicked sponsors with one foot out the door. And now? The question isn't whether Whoopi crossed a line. It's whether she exposed that there was no line to begin with. One chilling line in the leaked memo echoed louder than the rest. While Miss Goldberg remains a valued talent, recent unscripted comments regarding ongoing federal investigations, including implications against former President Trump, have placed the network in a vulnerable position with advertisers and legal consultants. That sentence hit the internet like a thunderclap. It went viral before you could even refresh your feed. Suddenly, one question was everywhere, from Twitter threads to newsroom roundtables. Was ABC about to muzzle one of its most iconic voices? The network's response? A masterclass in corporate sidestepping. No denial. No clarification. Just a limp, vague line about supporting open dialogue and diverse opinions. Translation: something big is brewing, and we're not talking about it. Inside The View, the atmosphere had gone from tense to volatile. One staffer, speaking under strict anonymity, didn't mince words. It's a cold war in there. People are picking sides. Sunny Hostin stood firmly with Whoopi, saying truth had to come before comfort. But Alyssa Farah Griffin? Reportedly livid. She claimed the show had crossed into dangerous waters. And then there was Joy Behar, usually Whoopi's ride or die, caught muttering backstage. We're already under a microscope. Now we're giving them ammo. This wasn't petty infighting. This was studio civil war. Emergency meetings erupted like popcorn. Producers scrambled to scrub scripts, slicing out every whisper of Epstein. Co-hosts were handed fresh warnings: stick to the teleprompter like it's a life raft. Pre-show meetings turned into high-stakes strategy sessions. The tension was no longer just in the air, it was baked into the walls. And Whoopi? Unshaken. According to insiders, she told top brass point blank, "I'm not backing down. I won't shut up when it matters." Then, just as the firestorm hit a fever pitch, came the next twist of the knife. Within days of the memo leak, several longtime advertisers quietly pulled out. No press conferences. No Twitter statements. Just empty ad slots and vanishing dollars. A silent exodus. And according to whispers inside the building, the financial hit? Brutal. ABC was now cornered. Support their star and risk their image with nervous sponsors, or rein her in and risk their integrity, their soul, and whatever trust they had left with their audience. And up in the executive suites? The polished masks were cracking. The whispers were louder. The pressure was relentless. The storm wasn't just coming. It was already inside the building. Meanwhile, the public wasn't exactly sitting quietly, sipping tea and knitting scarves. Social media turned into a full-blown gladiator arena, with hashtags like #ProtectWhoopi and #CancelTheView trending simultaneously. One side hailed her as a fearless truth-teller, a lone voice screaming into the silence. The other labeled her a reckless arsonist lighting matches in a newsroom filled with gasoline. The internet was no longer debating what she said, it was tearing itself apart over why she said it, and what it meant. Even celebrities jumped into the storm. Rosie O'Donnell reposted the viral clip with a caption that thundered, "That's the Whoopi I know. Brave. Fierce. Unafraid of the truth." But across the digital aisle, Meghan McCain took a scalpel to it on X, formerly Twitter. This is what happens when daytime TV turns into a conspiracy circus. And just when the debate couldn't get hotter, it got political. Senator Elizabeth Warren dropped a bomb of her own during a casual MSNBC interview. Calm, composed, but surgical. When journalists and commentators start asking the hard questions, it's because the public deserves transparency, especially around matters as horrific as child trafficking. A quiet nod? Maybe. But one that landed like a gavel to the gut. Then came the real shockwave, rumors that ABC executives had already taken a secret vote on Whoopi's future. Some wanted her gone. Immediately. Others warned that firing her could ignite a public backlash big enough to torch the network's reputation from coast to coast. The whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were roars. One question echoed across every green room, newsroom, and boardroom. Would she be silenced, or would she torch the whole place on her way out? While ABC scrambled to contain the inferno, Whoopi? She was reportedly shopping for more gasoline. And then came Monday. The cameras rolled in slow, like they were scared to wake a sleeping beast. The audience sat frozen. Every breath felt like a countdown. Whoopi looked straight into the lens, no script, no teleprompter, no filter. You know what? Silence is how we got here in the first place. Silence is how Epstein thrived. Silence is what some people want from me right now. But I'm not going to give it to them. Boom. The room exploded. Applause. Gasps. A few stunned, silent faces. She wasn't just going after Trump. Or Epstein. Or the DOJ. She was now calling out everyone, the media, corporate America, even the very network she was standing in. If speaking the truth about a convicted child trafficker makes people uncomfortable, maybe we need to ask who we're protecting, and why. And just like that, she flipped the entire narrative on its head. But before the internet could catch its breath, another bombshell detonated. A whistleblower from inside ABC leaked the existence of a secret internal risk list, a classified document ranking hosts by how likely they were to destabilize the brand. Sitting at the very top? Whoopi Goldberg. At this point, it wasn't about one comment, one episode, or even one woman. It had become a battle line between truth and silence, power and exposure. And whether she wanted the title or not, Whoopi Goldberg had become the face of resistance. Inside The View, the set had officially turned into a cross between a soap opera and a courtroom drama. Sources now claimed the rift between co-hosts had widened into a full-blown canyon. One staffer put it bluntly. "We're not just making TV anymore. We're living inside a revolution." Sunny Hostin was still riding shotgun for Whoopi in public, but behind the scenes, the air was thick with tension. Not fire, not fury, something colder. Something sharper. Off camera, it could have been cut with a butter knife. Meanwhile, Alyssa Farah Griffin wasn't hiding her frustration. She reportedly stormed into a closed-door meeting with producers, laying out her fears about the show's spiraling direction and her own survival at the table. And you didn't need insider tea to see the shift. Body language on air told the whole story. No eye contact, clipped tones, political discussions met with pregnant silences. In one viral clip, co-hosts were literally scooting away from Whoopi mid-segment. The internet had seen enough. Was ABC about to oust her, or had her colleagues already done it emotionally? But if Whoopi felt the chill, she didn't show it. In a raw, defiant follow-up interview with Variety, she didn't miss a beat. "I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm asking questions that matter. And if that makes me a target, then so be it." That quote hit the internet like a lit match dropped into dry tinder. Kaboom. Timelines ignited. Supporters rallied hard. Whoopi's the only one brave enough to say what we're all thinking. Critics countered harder. Right-wing media foamed at the mouth, labeling her dangerous, unhinged, and a threat to national discourse. Fox called for her firing. Others went further, branding The View as a misinformation megaphone hiding behind daytime makeup and coffee cups. But something bigger was rumbling underneath the noise. A movement was forming. Survivors of trafficking. Anti-corruption watchdogs. Everyday citizens sick of whispers and closed doors. They began speaking out, loudly, demanding transparency, accountability, names. One tweet from a trafficking survivor lit up with over 1 million views. "I wish more people had Whoopi's courage. Survivors deserve the truth. Silence protects predators." And just like that, this wasn't a TV controversy anymore. It was a reckoning. While ABC scrambled like a wounded PR machine, issuing memo after memo, Whoopi stood firm. Stoic. Steady. Unapologetic. And then, destiny cranked the plot twist dial to 11. Late Friday night, a bombshell dropped. An investigative journalist unveiled a scoop. Sealed Epstein court records were quietly being reviewed behind closed doors. And inside? Names. Names tied to major media executives. Executives with direct connections to ABC. Let that settle in. According to the exposé, names from Epstein's flight logs and donation records overlapped with top-tier television gatekeepers, some of whom had editorial sway over The View itself. Suddenly, Whoopi's fire wasn't just controversial. It was radioactive. She hadn't just poked the bear. She'd walked into the cave with a torch and kicked the hive on her way out. By Sunday, ABC had had enough. The call came down. A formal warning. Not a suspension, yet, but a carefully worded memo that dripped with threat. Further unsanctioned commentary may result in disciplinary action. Translation: shut up. Or else. But folding? That was never in Whoopi's script. Come Monday morning, the cameras rolled. The energy was molten. She looked straight into the lens, voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "Some people want me to shut up. But my silence will never protect the powerful. I speak for those who can't." The studio exploded. It wasn't applause, it was a roar. Like she just scored the Super Bowl-winning touchdown in the final second of a tied game. Even co-hosts who'd been sidestepping her like live wires were now clapping. The tide had turned, and fast. This wasn't just about Whoopi anymore. This was about all of it. Truth versus control. Courage versus convenience. Silence versus survival. And as one producer allegedly muttered off set, watching it all unfold. "We're not just making television anymore. We're watching the whole damn system crack open." Behind the scenes, ABC's inbox wasn't just full, it was under siege. Hundreds of thousands of emails flooded in. Petitions exploded across the internet. Phone lines lit up like a Christmas tree on steroids. The message was deafening. Protect Whoopi. Don't punish her. The hashtag Stand With Whoopi didn't just trend, it dominated. Overnight, it took over feeds, headlines, and late-night monologues. Celebrities, legal scholars, political commentators, they weren't just defending Whoopi. They were joining a bigger fight. A fight for transparency. For truth. For pulling back the velvet curtain that protects the powerful from scrutiny. Suddenly, ABC wasn't just wrangling an outspoken host. They were the ones under fire. Media watchdogs began sniffing around, digging into the network's political donations, campaign contributions, and any ties, even the faintest, to Epstein-linked figures. For the first time in years, the hunter became the hunted. ABC, once smugly orchestrating the narrative, now found the spotlight turned full force on them. And then, the curveball. A second whistleblower emerged. But this one? Not from ABC. This source came from an entirely different network, and dropped a thunderclap of a bombshell. They claimed they'd been told years ago to shut down any coverage connecting Epstein to public figures, especially in entertainment and politics. The internet exploded. And this wasn't hearsay. Digital forensics backed it up, memos, emails, unaired footage, all real. And right there, buried in the archives, was Whoopi's name. Not as a problem. Not as a liability. As the only one who dared speak out. The pressure? Nuclear. ABC was cornered. The mask was slipping. And the question was brutal. Silence her, or stand beside her? Then, in a twist no one saw coming, they caved. Late Tuesday night, the network issued a formal statement. It didn't dodge, downplay, or spin. It praised The View's commitment to fearless discussion, and confirmed that Whoopi would stay, unrestricted, uncensored, and with full creative freedom. It was more than a win. It was a line in the sand. Because this was never just about a talk show. This was about the cost of truth, the danger of questions, and the bravery it takes to speak when silence is safer. Whoopi Goldberg had stood alone. But her fire caught. It spread. It ignited a movement. And in the end, she didn't just survive the firestorm. She became the storm. Now, the world is watching. Because if this could happen, live on daytime TV, in real time, with receipts, resistance, and revelations. What else is still hiding behind closed doors?